Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kara Woods, and I will be presenting on the relationship between the church, land ownership, and heir property for African communities in Macon County. So today we'll be talking about the importance of African American land ownership, as well as the importance of the African American church and its ties to the community, the decline of African American land ownership and its causes, and the introduction of heir property, and then following up with the case study of Shiloh community in Macon County. And so land ownership has been pivotal in attaining privilege, status, wealth since the birth of this country. And in particular, for African American property owners, it's been a status of personal freedom, economic building, political empowerment, and then the transfer of generational wealth. However, there has been a steep decline of black land ownership from the years of 1910 to 2012. So in the same way, the black church has also played a pivotal role in the creation, development, and preservation of the black community and its culture. It's provided a means of education, security, financial, and spiritual support. And these social institutions, like the church and the school, have magnetized the sediment of residents in the community, therefore creating an interacting bond between both. So due to hostile social environments where land was under attack or taken, there has been a decline in the traditional form of land ownership and the transfer of land, which has manifested in fragmentation of land, meaning that it's going to be smaller and smaller parcels, and then the creation of heir property. And we define heir property as the ownership of land without a clear title. And this might have been advantageous in a dominant white power structure, but since then it has become brings limitations. And so it's the goal of this presentation to examine the impact of those social institutions like the church on the incidents of economic resources such as land and the traditional forms of land ownership such as fragmentation and heir property. So after slavery, African Americans struggled for a full sense of citizenship, and they believed that owning property would achieve this goal. And like I said before, even with this fact, black land has declined steadily since 1910. It's actually declined from 14% to just 2% with the turn of the 21st century. And just to put that more into numbers, that's going from 16 million acres to just over 3.6 million acres. And this is only including for agricultural land, or agricultural black-owned land. So we're not including black-owned land that is just not in agriculture, and this can account for thousands of more acres that we just don't have that information. The decline of this land ownership is caused by the Great Migration, fear, change in agriculture, and then the creation of heir property. And then this is just showing, like I said, the steep decline that you see between the years of 1910 and 2012. And so as far as security and comfort, African Americans surrounded themselves within their own community, meaning that they settled within an enclave. And this community is creating a social, political, and economic capital that once again has a close-knit integration setting between both the community and the people within. And so the church was often the center of this community. And in many cases, the church and the school were associated together and were within close proximity. And so, once again, heir property refers to the land that is passed down to family members without a clear title or will. And within the southeastern United States, this is usually in African American communities. Heir property creates legal, social, and economic limitations that hinder that generational transfer of wealth. Some causes of heir property include the lack of trust in local lawyers and judges, the lack of money for legal aid, and then the superstition that the talk of death quickens death. And so consequences of this is that we have dead capital, which means that the land is not an economic resource that can be improved upon, so you cannot apply for USDA grants, you can't be approved for loans from banks, and another reason that we have another limitation of heir property is the loss of land, and this is through partition sales or the inability to pay taxes. And so the purpose of this study is to examine the relationship between heir property and the African American communities within Macon County. We hypothesize that there will be an occurrence of Black-owned land that surround these social institutions like the historically Black churches and schools in Macon County, and as a result, we'll have land fragmentation and then also the creation of heir property. So data and methods that we used in the research. Data sources include the Geographical Information Systems, or GIS, land ownership, and we get this from Macon County Revenue Office and website. Information that has a source of listed historical Black churches and schools in Macon County. Data from the Macon County Revenue Office for its land maps, which addresses the parcels and parcel sizes and how they change throughout time. So we have pre-1911 to 2018. And then key informant interviews with longstanding members of the community. So we combined the tax information that we got from the Montgomery County Assessor's Office with our instruments in the Tuskegee GIS lab. We were able to search for the name Heir as far as the owner's name, and that's how we got our heir property parcels. And then we transmitted this heir property parcels and the list or the location of the historical Black churches into ArcMap, which is just a software database that analyzes spatial analysis. And then once we were able to do all that, we programmed 2-mile buffers between around as a perimeter of each community around these Black churches and schools. And so going into my research site, which is Shiloh, Alabama, we chose this site because it was a historical site. It was established in 1870 by a Black man named Sam Moss, who purchased land, and then throughout time this land has been divided and sold for the needs of the community, and this includes land that the school was built upon, and the school was later supported as a Rosenwald Foundation school. And so Shiloh also gained notoriety as a pickup point for those who were deceived in participating in the United States Public Health Service on untreated syphilis in the Negro male. And so this is Macon County. The star is where the Shiloh community is in northern Macon County. This is a past picture of the Shiloh Rosenwald School. And then this is a restored picture of the school. So this is a current day picture of the school. And this is the Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church, which was the pickup site. And this is within a stone's throw distance of the school. So once again, it's in close proximity. And once again, it's the center of the community. So this is where many people would gather in the community. So from the land maps that we found in Macon County Revenue Office, we were able to see the fragmentation and the sale of Sam Moss's land. So you have the original acres, and then you have the current acres, and how they just been, like I said, in smaller and smaller parcels. From the GIS website for Macon County, we can see these acres, and then in the purple that you can see is indicating heir property. So the ArcMap data that we transmitted, we analyzed this. This is a Shiloh church, that black dot, and then the 2-mile buffer is the blue that you see around it. The yellow is the heir property parcel, so you can see that there are a number of heir property parcels around Shiloh community. So just to show that this is a problem throughout the county, we're going to go a little bit larger. And so all these black dots indicate the historically Black churches and schools in Macon County. Again, we have the yellow, which is the indication of heir property parcels. And then 2-mile buffers around each of these historically Black churches and schools. So once again, you can see there is a lot of parcels within these 2-mile buffers. And that's our results. So we inputted 789 air property parcels into ArcMap, and this is totaling just above 8,400 acres. And out of this, 335 parcels, or around 4,300 acres, were within those 2-mile buffers. And so this is going to be 51.6% of all air property in Macon County were within these 2-mile buffers surrounding these historically Black churches and schools. And this just confirms that throughout time the land is fragmented, there's the introduction of air property, and then we confirm this with the longstanding members of the Shiloh community with interviews. And so in conclusion, a mass amount of air property is surrounding these social institutions of Black churches and schools, and it confirms the communal relationship between both of them. And then it also just, the origination of the community was created with family land and ties, but then again it shows that the generational wealth of development is not getting passed down. And so we can say that cultural institutions are a good indicator for where these community residents and air property will be found. And so recommendations that we have for this is just to clear title. In the past, these social institutions offer security, as I said, like the church and the school, and being within your own enclave. But currently, you're not having financial security because there is no transference of wealth. So we would like to clear the title so once again, we can have some type of security in the land that we have. And these are my citations for the presentation. And thank you so much for your time. Yes, sir.
Curious question. I know some of your advisors in the room. Inasmuch as